Thank you so much for tuning in, and I really love this entire space. I love this entire business. I love where this business has really gone, but at the end of the day, we have to make money. So the whole point of me being here is I want to help you make more money in your clinic. And really, if you take some of these tidbits that I'm going to go through in the next 30 minutes, we should be able to see a lot more money and get more revenue as well as the margin that we're looking for. So that's what we're going to dive into. So why am I here? So our story, one thing that I always want to, whether I'm talking on stage about doing a proper consultation, marketing, advertising, you really have to be all in on this business. So my wife and I, Stephanie, she's the significantly better looking and smarter of the two of us, but we started the business 12 years ago now. We've treated 13,000 patients. But what we did was we had an idea and we emptied our 401ks. We started with one device, and we bought the device, we got the space, we outfitted the space, did everything, it looked great, and we had $25,000 left over. We spent it all month one on advertising. You have to be all in if you want this to be successful. You can't dip your toe in the water. You're running a business, you're an entrepreneur, you have to be all in to make this really go to the moon, right? And that's the whole point of doing this, right? So our background, we're one of the top body contouring clinics in the country. We have 18 devices at this point in time, and I've personally done over 7,500 consultations in this space. I love it. I love sitting down with patients, really solving their problems and guiding them down the right path to show them the results that they're looking for. So we're going to dive into really how this whole space works. So that's the significantly smarter and better looking half of mine there, but that's where it all started, and that was 12 years ago, and we've grown quite a bit, and we love doing the coaching piece with Practice Empowered and being on a podcast, really trying to help people. And if you're not listening to the Aesthetic Coaches Quarter, you're really missing out because it's absolute gold on there. So, rising tide lifts all ships. I also, no matter what I'm talking about, whether it's the consultancy side or on the marketing and advertising side, everybody needs to know we are all in this together. So when we're talking about pricing, we all need to be around the same place, because if you're not hustling, you're not advertising, and you are not taking your business to the next level or trying to, and you're undercutting price, and that is your marketing strategy, shame on you. Right? Because it hurts all of us. We are all in this together. If I'm doing a proper consultation, we're keeping pricing where it needs to so that we keep the margins, because these devices are expensive, right? This whole space is expensive. We really need to be all in this together. So if you see somebody struggling, I have a story where one of our competitors, he's actually a very good friend of mine. He's a doc in Denver. And I sat down with a consult with a patient, and the patient said, hey, I was across town and they were quoting me significantly less than this, and it was one of our body contouring treatments. After the consultation, I called up the doc and I said, hey, do you know that your staff is quoting these prices? He goes, I hope not. He had no idea. So I went over there and I actually trained their whole staff on how to do a proper consultation to keep the price across it. He's a competitor, but at the same time, if that competitor is not successful and keeping the price where it needs to be, it's going to hurt all of us. So a rising tide truly lifts all ships in this space. So if you see somebody that's struggling, needs some help, reach out. Because if you don't, it can go bad for everybody. But we're all in this together. Staff unity, pricing, collaborate with your peers in this space, and your staff all needs to really be educated. The different speakers and the private equity that you've heard from, this is amazing information for you to have a better business. And we're going to really dive into the whole consultative piece now. Everything that your patient experiences from you sets the tone for the consultation. Everything in this space is all about patient experience. So whether that is the sitting down and doing the consult, whether that's your marketing, whether that's the tone in your marketing, the advertising, how it's done, whether you're on TV, radio, whatever it is, it's all part of the patient experience and your brand. You really need to be consistent with your messaging, your tone, and the feel of all of your marketing and advertising. Otherwise, it's disjointed, and your patient really can feel that. The initial paperwork, when somebody does come in the door, right, you've spent the money on advertising, and then you got them in the door. That is half the battle, right? So how you're doing your marketing, your advertising, whether it's referral, whatever it is. When they come in that door, that's really when the whole consultation piece starts, but it's all about the patient experience at the end of the day. The initial paperwork is very important. And everybody that's watching this right now, you're gonna make an extra $100,000 if you're not doing what I'm going to tell you to do right now. So at the very bottom of your first page of your initial paperwork, before they're tired of filling out all the paperwork, put down a list of everything that you do. They're coming in, you have an active audience, and we are very laser focused on all of our marketing and advertising. So when we do our marketing advertising, we're advertising, let's say Emsculpt Neo or Sculpture or one of the other devices that we have. They don't know that we do all these other things. Let them know. So at the very bottom of each one of your initial paperwork, we say, please check any, if you'd be interested in any of the following. And we put down not just the devices, but also really what the treatment is doing. So if somebody has rosacea, if they have acne, if they're looking for facelifting or whatever it is, and they check that down. Two things are happening. One, you're letting that patient know all the different services that you offer, but as important, you're also creating more funnels for conversations with that patient down the road, right? Because you spent a lot of money to get them in the door if it's coming from advertising and marketing. You want to make sure that you're optimizing all of the margin that you possibly can from that individual patient. And paying attention to what they want is the first step of that. So the initial paperwork is really, really important. And this next one, especially in medicine, it kills people. Timing and punctuality. The worst thing that you can do is act like an insurance-based practice. When you walk into a clinic, it takes you 30 minutes to fill out paperwork. They want you there 30 minutes early. You fill out all the paperwork, takes forever, and then you wait 45 minutes to see the doc. It's a terrible patient experience. You cannot do that. These are kings and queens that are going to be spending thousands and thousands of dollars with you. You need to value their time. If you do not do that, it's going to hurt you not only for that consultative piece that you're about to do, but then also the life of what that patient is doing. Timing and punctuality is crucial in this space because when you value their time, people really appreciate it because it's foreign to them when they go to see a lot of their doctors and other medical pieces to it. The consultation really starts the moment that they walk in the door. Everything that they are experiencing, from the front desk smiling, the attitude, the smells, the sounds, everything. The patient experience needs to be carried through the entire process. So we try to greet all of our patients by name, even if we've never seen them before. That little detail can carry a lot of weight. So when somebody walks in, obviously our staff knows our regular patients that are coming in, but then also because of that, we know that if some new face is coming in, we look at the schedule and we see this is a new person coming in for initial consultation. We agree, oh, are you Mary? That little bit carries a lot of weight. So always try and greet your patients by name, always greet with a smile and a positive attitude. People are coming to look better. And this is an optional thing that they're trying to do. So you really need to make sure that you are taking it to the next step of the whole patient experiencing. And attitude carries a lot of weight with that. So we give the patients the initial paperwork, offer them a beverage or something like that. So everything so far has been a great piece of the patient experience. We have a clean, inviting staff. They were just greeted by name. They knew what was going on. They were given the proper paperwork, offered a beverage, everything. Soon as they turn that paperwork in, I'm put this next point again because it's so important. We try, doesn't happen all the time, obviously, but we try to, within 2 minutes of them turning in their paperwork, we have them in the consultative room. You just valued their time again, right? So it really, really carries a lot of weight to it. Give a tour if possible. So our space, I think, is very, very good looking. Stephanie, who's the significantly better person that runs the business with me, she actually did all of the designing and things like that. So give a tour. If you're proud of your space, give a tour, and then you can actually see all the different devices that you have or the different rooms or the different services that you offer. We don't always give tours just because time is of the essence sometimes, but if you can, give a tour. If you have a pretty space, it really starts a lot of conversations for your patients. The consultation. So the first thing I do is when we're sitting down in the consult is I actually pay attention to the initial paperwork, right? We want to make sure there's no contraindications. If there's going to be any red flags, we obviously want to see that. But then also I'm looking at what they checked they're interested to talk about. I can't tell you how many times a patient will come in, they saw an ad that we were advertising for on social media or whatever it is for body contouring, and then they end up buying facial aesthetics. If you are not listening to the patient and paying attention to what they want to talk about, everything can get screwed up because a lot of people get blinders on, they get tunnel vision on. They came in, we're going to talk about this. You don't know until you're sitting down and talking with that patient. So really pay attention to that initial paperwork. And then the first question that we always ask is, what are you trying to accomplish? Right? That is really, really important. And then just listen. Because that question, how they answer that question, is going to guide the rest of that initial consultation. Because you don't know until you ask that question what you're doing, even if they wrote something down different in the paperwork. You need to really take an educational approach to this entire space and how you do consults, because that's what's important. And listening to the patient is a really big piece of that. Evaluate the patient. So because we have 18 devices, right? So when we start with our story, I always sit down and I talk about our why, right? So we're a full functional integrative health center. We just happen to do more non-invasive body contouring than anybody in the state of Colorado by a wide margin. So just saying that really kind of sets the tone that we do a whole lot of other things. But then I say, we have 18 different devices. We could do multimodality, all of this. Let's take a look at you to really put together the best plan that's going to be right with you. So when we say evaluate the patient, you need to really put their headspace into what got them to come call you to begin with, right? So in the body contouring world, if you do not have a full-length mirror in your consultation room, you need to get one, and you need to stand the patient in front of that mirror looking at themselves when you're evaluating the patient. Because you're putting their headspace, what got them to call you to begin with, which is looking at themselves in the mirror, right? So this also gives you the really good opportunity to set the expectations. So when you're touching the body, you're also going to say, based on what you need, you're going to need 8 treatments or 10 treatments to really see this. So you're setting the tone for what that patient is really going to need to see the results that they just told you that they're trying to accomplish. So after you do that, you assess the patient, you evaluate the patient, you go over, you're educating them throughout that entire process what they need, you're setting the tone. Then when you sit down and talk about the device that they need, they already have the seed planted on how many treatments they're going to need, and you've set expectation, and then the price can come later. Educate the patient. Educate the patient and discuss competitors could be one slide, but I really want to make sure that this is focused on in all of your clinics. If you are not talking about competition, you're missing part of the whole plan, because they're looking at let's say it's getting rid of fat. We're going to talk about body contouring today. They're looking at getting fat. Trust me, they're Googling other options than necessarily what you have. So I always talk about why we spent the money on the specific devices that we buy. So we do a lot of sculpture. We've actually done the most sculpture treatments of any clinic in the entire world. We're top 10, top 5 in the country for M-Sculpt Neo treatments performed as well. I always talk about cool sculpting and cryolipolysis. Because if you don't, trust me, they're looking at it. Right? So for everybody out there that has cool sculpting, I apologize. You're going to hate me at the end of this. But I really, really implore you to educate the patient on not only what is going to be the right option for them, but then what the other options are as well. Because if you don't, your competition will. Right? So this is verbatim how I talk about cryolipolysis. So before we talk about M-Sculpt Neo or Sculpture or Temperature Firm or M-Tone or whatever it is, right, we're going to talk about cool sculpting, because if you're looking at M-Sculpt Neo, you're looking at cool sculpting, right? 100% of the time they always nod their head, because they are. Here's how cool sculpting works. They suck your fat between 2 panels. They're cycling liquid nitrogen between the 2 panels to freeze your tissue. The reason why they're trying to freeze your tissue is because your fat has a high affinity for cold, right? Well, unfortunately for you, so does your dermis, nervous system, vascular bundles, and lymphatic system. tons of permanent nerve damage lawsuits out there. You can be bruised for months on end. You can end up with skin elasticity issues. As important on the aesthetic side is it's such a hyper-localized reaction that you can only kill the fat that they can suck in between those two panels. So your body can be left with what's called a shark bite or shelving. We see it all the time in our clinic. And then you can also be left with paradoxical hyperplasia. Adipose, it's a mouthful. But if you don't do that education, they're not going to get that same story from your competition. There's a reason why you bought the devices you did. And it's because it's better than other options out there. You need to educate the patients as to that fact. Do not steer away from it. Same thing with facial aesthetics. You really need to be in there educating the patients on not only what you have, but also what else is out there and why this is the best option for them. As you're going through the consult and you're educating them, we're going to talk about this particular device, why it's the best option, it's these combo therapies. You need to give the constant feedback on what they told you they were trying to accomplish back to them when you're educating them. It's active listening, right? We want to make sure that you heard what they were saying, but then you're always going to go back to what they told you they were looking for with that education. And then show before and afters, if needed. We use before and after pictures as kind of a backup. I maybe show before and after pictures in our consultations 10% of the time. If you do a proper consultation appropriately, before and after pictures are not needed. They're a cherry on top. So if somebody's like, ooh, I don't know, then I'll say, oh, let me show you some before and after pictures. But if you go through the consultation properly, before and after pictures are not needed. Ask for the sale. You've gone through, you've received continued buy-in from the patient on what they need. You educated them on not only what is going to be the best option for them, but then also what the competition is and why this is going to be the best thing. Now you need to really ask for the money, right? That's the whole point of this. We're running like 85% average margin in our clinic, 90% margin in our clinic. You just built all the value. You educated them. This is the best option. You talked about the competition. Now it's time to actually get the money. So break down the price and be completely transparent. So I actually talk about consumables in our consults. I fully explain, I go, we buy the device for several $100,000, and then every single time that we turn that device on, they charge us again. Patients have no idea. They appreciate it when you're transparent with them, and I say because of that, I get charged per treatment, I charge you per treatment, or per panel, or per applicator, or whatever it is. The more treatments you do, the cheaper the price per treatment. That way they understand. So you're building the value, you're being fully transparent with them. They understand why the pricing is what it is and the deal that you're offering on advertising or whatever it is, then ask for the sale. One of the biggest problems that places have is they keep talking after they ask for the money. So when you ask for the sale, you've broken everything down. You've done all the education. Would you like to buy? Would you like to start? How would you like to pay? Whatever your closing line is, and then be quiet and let them answer, right? Provide payment options if necessary. Let them tell you if they need it. Obviously, yes, we work with different payment options out there, but you let them tell you that they need to do that before you spending the extra money on fees or whatever it is, okay? But this is all part of the entire process. Now, after you ask for the sale, you want to get the money right away. It's amazing when we do consulting at Practice Empowered where we'll actually walk you through, teach you the proper patient flow, the whole nine, and get you successful. So if you're interested, reach out to us. We want to help in any way that we can. But you want to get that money immediately that they say, I want to do this. Within 2 minutes of them saying, we're ready to go, we've run their card. They're excited, which is the number one thing that you're trying to accomplish in the consultation. Get the money, get them going, and you want to get pictures, measurements scheduled immediately after that and get them started on their treatment program as soon as you possibly can. Okay? And then we always like to meet with patients throughout the entire protocol, whatever's doing that. That will save you so much headache if you're checking in with patients after their second or third or whatever treatment it is, answering questions, diving in. We do actually do some nutrition pieces throughout this entire process where this is a full health-centric position where, yes, we're doing facial aesthetics, yes, we're doing body contouring, but this is also the ability for you to help them get healthier. So we really dive in and talk about proper nutrition, ask simple questions where obviously if you're doing body contouring out there, if somebody's drinking 7 Cokes a day, right, they're gonna have an issue with weight control, right? Or if they are eating out all the time. Simple conversations can move the needle substantially throughout this entire process. So when you're doing that, I really, really encourage you to meet with patients throughout the entire protocol, so you're catching any issues that they might be having, you're educating them more on proper expectations throughout the entire protocol, all of that. And this is super, super, super important. You need to focus on retention of the patients that you already have, right? Because we spend a lot of money on patient acquisition to come in, lead generation, lead conversion. Hopefully you learned some things in what I just went over to up your overall consultation close rate. Once they're part of your business already, that's when all the magic can happen forever, when you have a patient for life. You need to focus on retention, and that's why we use Repeat MD. Right? 76% of all patients consider themselves a lifetime patient after their 3rd visit. If you are not doing memberships and you are not really maximizing the patients that are already in your building, you are missing out on a lot of money, but then also on allowing that patient to see the best results with you that they possibly can. Acquiring a new patient is 5 times more expensive than working with your patients that you already have. And that makes sense, right? So there's so many people out there that complain about, I don't want to spend this kind of money on advertising. I don't want to spend this kind of money on social media, TV, radio, whatever it is 5 times more expensive. So if you are not fully utilizing this, you're missing out, because Repeat MD is absolutely amazing and they do the work for you. Version 2, I just got a sneak peek at this thing. It is absolutely gorgeous. I'm really, really excited for it to debut with us. Increasing patient retention can add 25% more profit to your bottom line. I don't know how many of you went to school and did any kind of math, but that is a lot more money at the end of the day than what you already had. So you need to make sure that you're really focusing on retention. One of the biggest things on why Repeat MD and why we ended up bringing it in is, at the end of the day, you want to build value to your business. Right? So whether you're trying to sell it to PE firm calls you or whatever it is. So for everybody out there, a typical business valuation is 3 to 5x of your yearly profit. That's what you're worth. If you didn't know that, now you do. If you have memberships and predictable recurring revenue, it more than doubles it to 7 to 10x. Even if you're not looking at selling your business, you need to be paying attention on what your business is worth. It's really, really important. Memberships is a giant piece of that entire space. I don't think it's spoken about as much as it probably should, but it's very, very important. 7 out of 10 patients want an ongoing membership for aesthetic treatments. I know Chris talks about it, and I steal this from him to kind of explain it, but I didn't pay for my phone. I can afford to buy my phone outright, but I'd rather give Verizon $50 a month for the rest of my damn life than pay out the money right away. I don't know why, it's just how my brain works, but there's a lot of people that are just like that. They want memberships. Give it to them, and you're actually going to get a lot more money over the lifespan of that patient if you're doing that. 78% of millennials prefer a membership. I don't like to consider myself a millennial, but technically I'm in that window, and I guess that's why I want to give people $50 a month for the rest of my life for whatever it is. Businesses with a strong MMR have received 2 to 3 times greater valuations than those who don't. I just went over that, but that is really, really, really important for everybody out there. We need to be paying attention to our bottom line, what our margins are, how do we optimize it, but not only for current profit, but then also what your business is actually worth. And members spend 44% more on average than non-members annually, and that is real data. That is absolutely real data. So I love this space. The e-commerce piece of it is amazing in terms of how this all works, because you can make money while you're sleeping with this as well. I love doing consultations. Hopefully you learned some different things while I was talking today. Little things can move the needle a ton, so thank you very much for your time. I appreciate you all.